As cliche as it is, I am a big fan of Nirvana. I'm a terrible guitarist, but still a big Nirvana fan. As well, I'm a fan of Pearl Jam. But of course, these are kind of the cliche likes. I know. But sometimes we'll have to start out somewhere. And I started off on the grunge bands before I got into the more underground punkers. The Jello Biafras, the Henry Rollins. You get my meaning. I could just go blank for a second because there's just too many of these people to think of. Ian Mackay, that's a good one. I could go on forever, but I don't want to. It would just be taken away from the ultimate point. What drew me to Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, and also to Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam, were the fact that these were men who were considered manly men, as far as I could tell, but they were not afraid to be themselves. Like me, they were short men. Kurt Cobain was 5'9", Eddie Vedder 5'7", and they were themselves. They went against a trend. They were not macho. They were sensitive men. They were feminist men. They were men that I realized I wanted to be like. Growing up, being maybe 5'8" at tallest, very effeminate for a boy in southern Ohio, rural southern Ohio, in fact. I'm not talking about Cincinnati here. Life was pretty lonely for me. I didn't have a lot of friends, maybe one or two here and there, but it was mostly a lonely time. Girls didn't want anything to do with me. The men, the boys in my high school would sexually harass me. It was not a fun time. It was a time that filled me with a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of loneliness. And I really didn't have a lot of heroes to look up to besides Ozzy, I suppose. But could I really relate to Ozzy? See, in the years from 1999 to 2001 to 2002, the new metal trend was all the rage. It was popular for men to have really short hair, either crew cut to totally bald. And I dared to be a pretty boy as a teenager. I had long hair from the ages of 15 to 16. Started off with as a mullet because that's what my mother would let me have. Then by the time I was 17, I had more of what I was looking for. But it did not bring me any popularity, and I knew it wouldn't. But I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to be myself. But of course, it didn't come without repercussions. Becoming a Nirvana fan at the age of 17 and obsessively looking into their interviews, their history, whatever I could scrounge up on the interwebs, I found out much about Kurt Cobain's opinions. You know, being in Southern Ohio, you get so used to homophobia, to macho dickhead mentality. Kurt Cobain was totally against this. He was very pro-gay, very pro-black, very pro a lot of things that his typical redneck fans I knew of would have never approved of. I don't think they knew who Kurt Cobain truly was. Some people would just hear "Smells Like Teen Spirit" and they would just assume that Kurt Cobain was just as much as a macho rock guy as, Fred Durst. They didn't truly look behind the guitar chords and know the person behind them. The tortured person, the effeminate man who grew up in Aberdeen, Washington, lonely himself. I think that's where I related. Of course, there are other examples of non-conventional men who didn't adhere to traditional masculinity. Quentin Crisp, RuPaul, Divine, and Robert Smith from The Cure. There have been plenty of men I can look up to, probably, who did not adhere to these macho, tough guy sort of ideals of manliness that make me think, hey, I can be my own kind of man. I can be my own soy boy. A fine little jab at you macho men who are afraid of beans, of course. It's incredibly strange how we've gone from men who could be comfortable with their masculinity, who didn't mind wearing dresses or a little bit of eye makeup, or supporting a woman's right to choose, to now we have men beating the shit out of each other and refusing to masturbate to prove how masculine they are, how they aren't soy boys, or whatever term of endearment they come up with for any emasculated male they dare imagine within their pea-sized brains. Yes, I am aware the word cuck just appeared by my head.
Look at all these soy cuck ducks, with their heads in the water. What cucks? What a horrible display of locking masculinity. They are so beta. Beta, beta.
You see, I once balked at the idea of the topic of toxic masculinity, but when you see so much that goes on, especially even in the YouTube sphere, and not just the YouTube sphere, politically, this whole thing, the Proud Boys, everything, you see how much merit that term has. There is toxic masculinity, and it's probably never been more obvious with this whole online culture we have right at our fingertips on our smartphones and laptops and the such. I don't think there's been even, there's just not a better example I can think of at the moment of toxic masculinity in action than so much of this hatred towards trans women, towards women in general, and the idea of cucks and soy boys, you name it.
All gender bathrooms? What's next, asking? What's next? Culture Marxism?
I find it incredibly weird that so many of the macho folk who say that other people are triggered and love to use this well overused meme right here are the ones who seem to get offended at everything. All gender bathrooms, people with pronouns in their profiles on Twitter, you name it. For those who claim that others are offended and triggered, it seems like you are the ones who are guilty of what you say others are so obviously guilty of. I mean, make up your mind. Are you offended by everything or not? And if you're not offended by everything, if your masculinity is so secure, why do you care if other people have pronouns in their profiles? Why do you care if some establishments make all gender bathrooms so nobody's excluded and nobody has the discomfort or worry they're going to be beaten the shit out of if they go into the wrong bathroom? Why do you care? Why does it matter to you? You know, it's like, why do you care that some woman in Canada wanted to make videos critically discussing video games? Why do you care? You have no answer. And the hypocrisy is just all too glaring. But typically, hypocrites can't admit to it. Or you ask them what the deal is, they go blank. You get no answer. It happens time and time again. And another upsetting thing was the fact that this whole toxic atmosphere became so prevalent, so popular on this YouTube sphere, that even trans men were resorting to kicking the shit out of other trans people, even driving them to attempt suicide for the sake of gaining acceptance, for appearing tough and appeasable to the majority, which is just really fucked up and sad. Now, while Calvin Guerra is a person I've heard about through popular YouTube talk, Storm Ryan I knew nothing about until he left this wonderful comment on my Ariel Scarcella video, in which I was concerned about Ariel Scarcella's transphobia and that of her obvious fans. But then he released this video. So I may be creepy, Storm Ryan, but I guess I was right, huh? I noticed there's this obsessive habit of giving the finger in these screenshots I've shared. I don't quite get it. You know, it kind of loses its edge after a while if you do it so often, and if you're doing it to kind of shit on the people who don't have a lot of power in society. It just looks kind of pathetic at some point. Like, you know, you're trying to be edgy, but hiding what a dickhole you are. You know, it's like hiding how much you just don't give a shit about other people besides yourself and your YouTube revenue. Seriously. But I want to top this off by saying if you happen to be a trans man or non binary, and you are more than happy to still present in a way that isn't considered traditionally masculine, like myself, I'm a cis man, but I know I'm not the epitome of macho-ness. Just to let you know, I have your back. I accept you. I will call you by whatever pronoun you want. It doesn't offend me in any way. I have your back if you want my support, of course. You don't, you probably don't need it, but if you want it, I'm there.
Shut up, soy boy. I'm getting tired of you.
On the topic of incels, I find myself feeling slightly more compassionate, maybe, than I would normally for, the obvious alpha males who I've been kind of prodding at throughout this, especially with, the probably over 50 times I've used the word soy boy by this point. I know, I'm a little bit repetitive, and like I say, I suck at making videos. Regardless, it's important to keep in mind that not all of those who are in the group of the involuntarily celibate are Elliot Rodger types. Not all are these big misogynist weirdos who hang around on Twitter ruthlessly trying to make women commit suicide. Yeah, those are a horrible, horrible, horrible bunch who really are a unfortunate outcome of this toxic masculine atmosphere we live in. But aside from them, though, there's legitimately people who long for intimacy and just probably have no chance at it due to their own mental problems, maybe physical handicaps. So it's a nuanced topic to some degree, but I'm not totally talking about the whole incel sphere, though. Self-proclaimed incels, yeah, you could say they're not the best people. No. On my last video, I received a comment which called me an incel. Something along the lines of, this is an incel's version of going woke. Something like that. A smart-ass comment meant to get under my skin and probably bait me into, showing how unwoke I am by, maybe bragging about my sexual exploits to kind of, be like, oh yeah, I'll show you. I chose not to, though. I figured it was one of those sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. And I felt like it just was just completely missing the point of the video. So I just chose to block the user and remove their comment. I didn't see any point in, valuing their input that much. It was just an anonymous, random YouTuber, no videos, and an avatar of Batman. really, yeah, it's like I wouldn't say much is lost from that. Regardless, though, it does make me think it is a shame that we sometimes do throw around the word incel, like we do when we want to put other people down and make them feel like they are, less than worthy or like their opinion should not matter. And incel, it's a self-claimed title with many people. And I've said, yeah, these are some toxic people. Some of them are just really in a death cult of severe self-defeatism and with no hope and no effort to change and try to find what they want in the world. Yeah, I mean, there's that, of course. But I just cannot get on board with sex shaming to a good degree. I think it's just such a big, horrible zit of toxic masculinity when we are so willing to use sex as a trophy, as an exploit, to show how better we are than other people. And it's just, I can't dig it. I really can't. But I am saying this, admitting, first and foremost, have I been in the incel mindset in my lifetime? Yeah. But it's not something I would recommend, and it is something I would happily discourage many a young man or young woman, whomever. I would discourage them from following such a path. I think there are way better ways, there are way better methods one can go about coping with a life of loneliness. And personally, you can just love yourself to a good degree. Now, I don't mean love yourself. I'm not meaning this like, yeah, I don't mean love yourself that way. I mean, yeah, do that when you need to. Of course, do not deny yourself pleasure. Do not be like the Proud Boys. But I'm ultimately saying, though, there's a phrase that sometimes you can't expect love from others if you cannot love yourself. Now, true, there is ableism to that statement. It is problematic. Sometimes you just cannot help but hate yourself if you deal with depression. And maybe that's where I need to give myself a break because I have been a person who suffered depression. And it doesn't make logical, clear thinking possible. When you're in the midst of depression, it is crippling, no doubt. But I would not suggest to any man, any woman, any person to value your life based on how much sex you have and or not having. I mean, I could have argued with Batman Troll on the last video comment section saying, "Hey, bud, I had a girlfriend months ago. I ain't no incel." But how stupid would that be of me, though? For one, I don't want to, I'm trying to grow as a person. I hate that it took me so long to grow as a person. I'm in my late 30s. Regardless, I don't want to see my ex girlfriend as a trophy on the step ladder of manliness. That would just be negating my entire point of this video. I'm trying to tell you, the viewer, how ridiculous toxic masculinity is. How ridiculous it is to long to be an insensitive macho dickhead who sees women as less than you and places no value on compassion. It would be antithetical because sex is not a trophy. And I don't want my ex girlfriend to be seen in such a horrid way. It's like, oh yeah, she was just proof that I'm not an incel. And even if I were an incel, I would just try to wear that as life as it is. I will admit, yeah, it's probably obvious looking at me. I'm not super popular in the dating scene, and I have a video that I made back in 2016 where I'm pretty open about my bad luck with dating. But I can't say I've totally lived an incel life. I have had dates and all the fun that comes with that once in a while. I honestly, though I am the person who's been rejected in most dating situations I've had in my lifetime, there have been times I've rejected too. So I can't, you know, I can't honestly proclaim that I live an incel's life. I've rejected people as well, because I wasn't attracted or because I saw behaviors in them that I was unfortunately guilty of myself when it came to not taking rejection well. Before I sort of read some feminist literature and listened more to experiences of that women go through and realized this shit ain't cool. I gotta quit being this way.
My ex girlfriend even bought me this fan, and she let me keep it after we broke up. I mean, isn't that cool? She hasn't asked for it back or anything. I didn't even ask her to give it to me. She just said she was going to give it to me because I was complaining that I was getting way too hot while I was trying to sleep at night. That is awesome.
So, yeah, it's not quite unusual if you can be a friend when the whole boyfriend girlfriend thing doesn't work out. Yes, fellas, you can be friends with women. If the relationship doesn't work, but you both get along on a personal level, um, friendship is possible, especially when they were really good to you. In fact, one of my best friends of the past over 10 years is a woman. Who would have thunk? Admittedly, this video is pretty long-winded, very uneven, and I realized earlier within this video I have been, I guess, basically beating the dead horse. Because I think probably some of the examples I've shown of people being dunderheads are pretty outdated at this point. I mean, irrelevant, so to say. Because, it's not like, SJW YouTube is technically still a thing. Sure, there are some dipshits still holding on to it and trying to keep some of it alive or trying to revise history or whatever have you. But I know largely the trend I've been kind of shitting on, it's somewhat dead. Although, unfortunately, there are current examples still kicking and still, unfortunately, earning lots and lots and lots of views. Unfortunate, very much so. So, toxic masculinity still remains, I think, a current topic. And I haven't totally lost the plot here. The Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder stuff from the beginning of the video still does have a relevance here.
What made those two men unique was the fact that they just came out of the 1980s, a time which was not very well known for tolerance, to say it lightly. And Kurt Cobain, in the midst of a conservative culture which had fostered sexism and the excesses and popular ignorance of the hair metal era, was happy to come out pro-feminist, pro-hip-hop, and pro-gay. You name it, he was just on top of his game. He knew it could alienate his fan base, but he did what he did anyway. And that typically gets forgotten, and was forgotten, among many Nirvana fans of the 90s and beyond. Same with Eddie Vedder and his pro-choice stance. The early 90s, when it came to this popular culture, it seemed full of promise when the focus was on Seattle. Although really, in retrospect, I don't know if it really was that well focused, because the 90s continued and we had plenty of terrible trends and plenty of regresses and mindsets, from the Bush era to, of course, the Trump era. So really, it seems like we jump forward a little bit, maybe in progress, but then we go back and back again.
I swear, I don't know why I look so fat. God damn. It's like, I aim my head a certain way. I don't look so bad, but in these videos I'm posting for this video, my God, I look like a fucking pig.
Ah.
Okay, I don't look so bad now. Alright, kids, I'm just going to let you know something. As we get older, we get a little less prettier, and if we don't reel in our eating habits, if we like the sweets a little too much, it can cost us. And I've been a vegetarian since 2014, so this isn't all, steak fat. It's like, I look all right now, but man, watch what you eat and exercise as much as you can. Problem with me is just I'm lazy. It doesn't help that this camera zooms in so close when I put it on video mode. Damn you, LG, and your cell phones, which have these super zoom in cameras. Stop it! Stop it! Yes, I'm alright, Paz dispenser. I've got the force, don't you know? So, yeah, we ventured into body dysmorphia and then just plain insanity. So, I've been working on this video since January. Probably a little obvious from the hairstyle changes I've gone through. Sideburns were bulky, now they're a little shorter. And my housemates are probably listening to me right now wondering what the hell I'm doing. So, I'm going to try to bring this to a close now. So, in summation, with the Kurt Cobain stuff, I did mention in this video earlier that I idolized him as a teenager, and he encouraged me to throw off the shackles of homophobia and a whole bunch of irrational prejudices, which I unfortunately became accustomed to in McDermott, Ohio. Regardless, I did not live up so much to him. I still went down my own shit-headed routes. I luckily did not join Kekistan, but still I can't say I've been an ideal person. And if Kurt Cobain had not made a decision to end his life, then I'm sure he would not be happy to meet me. And I wouldn't blame him. I really have a lot of self-improvement to do on myself still. But one book I've read, which has helped me improve, I think, or at least gave me a better perspective, is Girls to the Front by Sarah Marcus. Even if you're not a fan of Riot Grrrl or even grunge or any music scene that came out of the Pacific Northwest in the early 1990s, I think this is still a good book to read. It is full of good information, good stories, good perspectives, and it turned me, a man in my late 30s, into a big fan of Riot Grrrl, even more so than I was before. I immediately started listening to more Bikini Kill and Bratmobile after this. So I recommend it intensely. So the whole Harry Styles wearing a dress thing kind of popped this topic into my mind. The whole reaction to that, the whole... God, I swear, why do these people call others triggered? I don't get it. Okay, regardless though, it brought some thoughts into my brain of my past, of how I have struggled to add up to manliness. And reminded me of what I've gone through. The time that those rednecks slapped me on the ass and called me gay when I was working at Walmart. Different things that I've been through in my lifetime. My struggles to be a better person and to feel comfortable with my own skin and to just embrace the soy. And that is the point of this video, is to embrace who you are. Try to improve, which I certainly do intend to do, but don't let the opinions of trolls get you down. Try to be a person of empathy and inner strength. I've not always done that myself, but it is my goal from now forward in my life, not to be self-centered, not to think life owes me anything, but to try to make my life the best I can and try to have that effect for others.
Yeah, I guess that's about what I was going to say, you know. Um, but just all around, I want to just bring awareness to the fact that it's not a shame to not add up to some rigid cultural expectation of masculinity. He Man is not everybody. We are not all Isaac Butterfield. We are our own human beings, and if we do not add up to somebody else's expectation of masculinity, if we are deemed soy boys or cucks or low testosterone betas, whatever it is, we are all valid. Trans, cis, you name it. We all are worthy. So embrace that soy.